Hi students, I'm going to give you a quick lecture on the first of our series that we're going to be covering this week. By the way, hi, I just went over to the SMB classroom and thought of you guys as we're in that lovely classroom with its green wall and its whiteboard and its somewhat fuzzy projector. I wish we were there, but we're going to do the best to do this by video for a little while and hopefully be back together soon. I hope that you're praying for that. So I went over and I got ourselves a little trusty whiteboard, and I thought I might tape this first just initial lecture in my office, and then sometimes it'll be from the SMB, sometimes maybe from different venues. But we are starting a new chapter. Hopefully you've completed the test already. That is on GDP and the cost of living, or CPI, and inflation. Hopefully you did the calculations optional quiz. You looked at the extra help class and did well on that. And now we're ready to start a whole new chapter. This chapter is called Money, Banking, and the Federal Reserve. And we're going to talk about the topics in that order. I'm really hoping that we can get into the beginning of the structure and role of the Fed this week. And then next week, we're going to talk about the tools of the Fed to do what it does. So this week, we're going to talk about how it's structured and what it does. Next week, we'll talk about how it does those things. We'll be learning 5 or 6 tools of the Fed. And if you're watching the current events right now, which I'm sure you are, a lot of what's being discussed is the role of the Federal Reserve. When you talk about a government cash injection, you're talking about the role of the Federal Reserve. But before we can really understand those things or comment on them intelligently, we really do have to understand something far more basic. And that thing that I want to understand that's far more basic is money, right? So let's talk about money, and let's talk about really what it is, and why it is what it is. And so we're gonna speak about those things today. So when we're thinking about money itself, right, we want to ask ourselves, when we refer to money, what do we really mean? You've all looked at histories where various cultures have used different forms of money, whether it be shells or whether it be wampum or whether it be beads or whether it be cattle. Is that money? Or is money only that printed material that we get issued by a government, right? So if you saw this on the ground walking into the SMB, would you pick it up? And why, right? Why would you want this particular green piece of paper? Does this have intrinsic worth? Does it have value? If so, what's the value based on? That's really what we're talking about when we talk about money. So the very first thing I want to say is that when we're talking about the definition of money, we're talking about what can be exchanged for goods and services. So money can really be that thing that you use to buy something. And so in a culture that uses beads or shells as the medium to buy things, to exchange for goods and services, then yes, it is money in those cases. Now, before money existed, there were barter systems where you exchanged goods. In other words, a goat for an orange, right? I don't know if that'd be a very fair exchange. It depends on the value of the goods and what people want. But that's not necessarily money. Money is has a different type of function. So we're going to talk about what should be included in money and what we should leave out of our definition of money. All right, so let's first make a distinction between money and wealth. Now, I always do this in the classroom when we're discussing money versus wealth. If I were to ask you right now, how much money do you have on your person, right? People would look around them in class and they would think about what's in their backpack and think about what's in their pocket and think about what's in their wallet. And I always ask students to tell me, how much money do you have on you? And so people are counting up what they have, and some of them have a great deal of money and a big fat thick wallet, and some of them have no money at all on them, right? But then you get into other questions. What if I were to ask you not how much money do you have, but how much wealth do you represent really on your person right now? When you ask someone about their wealth, it's a different question than their money. What if I asked you right now, what on your person and in your immediate surroundings do you have that's represented as wealth? Well, if you have a certain kind of precious metal fillings in your teeth, if you have an expensive set of braces or glasses, if you have gold earrings in your ears, if you have money in your wallet, all of these things could be added together to equal your wealth. Wealth is a much wider category. Wealth is really a measurement of the value that you have. And again, we're not talking about the value of you as a person, the value of you as an individual, dignified creation of God. Yes, that matters. But when we're talking economically, all right, we're talking about the wealth that you represent, the wealth that you have on your person. And if you're living in a more adult world, your wealth would include the value of your home, if you own it, the value of your automobile, if you own it, the value of the assets that you have compiled. That's different than money, all right? Your home, your car, your jewelry is part of your wealth, but it's not necessarily part of your money. And economists actually do debate a little bit what should be counted as money and what shouldn't be. We'll get to that as we get into the second part of our talk here on money. So let's talk a little bit about what we mean when we do say money. And what we first want to talk about is that money has three functions. Let's talk about the functions of money. All right? Money has three functions, three things that it does. The first thing is probably the thing that you're most familiar with, the thing that you most think about. When I asked you the question, do you want this? Okay, your answer is predicated on actually a lot of very interesting things. And that is, do you have confidence in the government? Do you have confidence in the society that they are accepting this? If you went out of your way to walk back into a street to pick up this particular piece of paper, but not necessarily a piece of monopoly money, that tells you something about how you see the US dollar. And that's an interesting discussion. However, one of the reasons that you immediately want this is because you see it as a medium of exchange. In other words, the reason that you might have answered, yes, I want this, is because you know that you can take this and you can go and use it to purchase what it is that you are looking for. And what you're looking for might be many different things. And so let's think about money as a medium of exchange. In other words, something that you can use to go and to purchase an item. I know, and you know, that if you walk into a store with money, that they are going to exchange goods for that money. You can go into Wawa and buy a coffee or a pretzel or a cookie or whatever it is that you're looking for, a bottle of water, and that money will be accepted as a medium of exchange. Wawa isn't going to say to you, well, do you have any goats? Or, oh, we're really looking for fuel oil to fuel our electricity. They're going to ask you for money, a medium of exchange. And then they will go and use that money as they see fit to do the things that Wawa wants to do, to purchase things, to buy stock, to stock the store with, and to pay their employees. So money is a medium of exchange in that way. But we want to think about money in other functions as well. Money also functions as a unit of account. A unit of account. What do you mean by money functions as a unit of account? Well, money is a very good indication to us of the value of something, and it's a very, very, very quick indicator. So for instance, if you walked into, let's say, Wawa today, and a bottle of water was $7, you would probably shy away from buying that bottle of water because you would think to yourself immediately, I can't spend $7 on that, or I won't spend $7 on that. But if you were to walk into a store and find a shirt for $7 or a book for $7, you might think that that was a good bargain. Why? Because money functions as a unit of account. It's a signal to tell us, okay, well, how much are these things that are consumables? How much are these things that are more permanent? I don't expect to pay $7 for a durable good like a washing machine, but I do expect to pay $7 for a large package of ground beef, for instance, that I know has a particular consumable use. And so as a unit of account, money helps us by describing the value and by assigning the value. Now, if you were to walk into a store in the midst of the world's largest desert and a bottle of water was $7, you might be very likely to part with that $7 because the value of the water has increased, and therefore the money acting as a unit of account will also increase. What about price gouging? What about raising prices in tough times or in the middle of a desert? Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to let Thomas Sowell talk about that. You're seeing a lot of it. You're going to see it as one of your current events articles. So I'm going to move on for right now. So money functions as a unit of account. Lastly, money functions as a store of value. You know, we don't always want to spend our money immediately. And so as a store of value, money is helpful. So let's say that you want to sell me some type of puzzle. Okay, let's say you want to sell me a puzzle that you have at your house. And I'm very interested in getting my hands on that puzzle because I'm bored with my family at home right now and I want a puzzle. And so in exchange, I say to you, well, how about if you give me in exchange for that puzzle, how about I give you an orange? Right, I'll give you this tangerine and you will give me the puzzle. The problem with this is that it is a finite product that can go bad. You may not be in the market for an orange today. You might think this has value. You might think this has an equal value to the puzzle. You might be willing to buy an orange sometime in the future, but you don't need one right now. Let's say that you have 10 of these in your refrigerator already going bad, and you think, well, I don't need this item right at this moment. I would rather have the money in my hand and go buy this when and where I want to. Well, that is the function of money as a store of value. Instead of giving you an orange for that puzzle, I will give you some money. And then you will put this away. And when you're good and ready to buy an orange or an apple, or your circumstances change and you'd rather buy a haircut or a bottle of water, you will take your money out and it will have stored the value of that puzzle. Interesting, right? It'll have stored that value, and then you will go and you will spend the money as you see fit. But the value of the puzzle has been stored in this money. So hopefully this gives you some ways of thinking about money that you have not thought about before. And I want to say a couple more things about money. That is to talk about the kinds of money that there are, and then to talk about money stock in the United States. So we're going to talk about two more things. I'm going to flip this and move to a new video because my phone is telling me that I'm out of space right now. We'll get this together so you won't have to click on as many. I'll give you a break and we'll go into the next two topics.